Good evening. I'm back at the unit. Been moving some shit around and got a bunch of shit in my car. I got it unload, but figure I practice some picking, and I also figure I might as well record it. Yeah, I think tonight I'm just gonna take it light and sort of do. I'd say like easier things to do. I haven't really been picking as staying up late picking or anything like that. Lately, been a little bit tired and probably a little rusty. You don't use it, you lose it. So, just sort of doing some like wafer locks and quick sets and defiance, a couple of schlegs. Out in the field, I'm normally just skipping straight to the leashy with schleg. It's kind of like cheating. I can make a fucking key to it later too. Anything with like a deeper cut or more extreme bidding, it's just not even worth it for me. Schlegs are oddly or deceptively difficult because they have more of a paracentric keyway. With quick sets you have this little. See, I can't point that out for you. I don't know if this camera works. With quick sets, you got like a little shelf right there, and that allows you to have like a shelf to rest your pick. And you can pick up off of that. With schlegs, they have more of a slope. It's just a slope. So your pick just really loves sliding off of it. It's that slope right there on this side right here. You see that? So, I don't know, for some reason I'm oddly intimidated by schlegs. More so than quick sets, of course. I can't pick like a smart key or anything. I can bypass them, but there's always a way in. While I'm smoking here, figure I'll tell you the story of one of the most bullshit lockouts I've ever been to. I very, very rarely have to drill, whether there's a window or a doggy door. If I can't pick the lock, I can always usually find a way in. Except for this one time, I was right down by my house and I got a late night call, and a gentleman in the aerospace field was locked out of his apartment, and he had a lock on there, and it had a quick set deadbolt, but it was very worn out, and that wasn't even locked. It was his knob, but his knob was so worn out it was almost unrecognizable. I couldn't recognize the lock just by glancing at it. On hindsight, I know it was a Schlage A knob. And if I would have known that, I would have put my leashy into it. But the keyway, where you stick the key in if you're not into locks, was just perfectly parallel. I could pick directly off of the bottom and tension anywhere I'd like. In fact, most of my tension wrenches didn't fit. They would just spin around because if you look at them, they're only so wide. So inside of there, they would slip. So most of them didn't work. But I did get a couple to work, and that's not a valid excuse for picking the lock. The age of that lock turned into a security feature, and I tried to pick that fucking thing and just really couldn't do it, and the guy kind of seemed in a rush, and he was a very nice person, very cool guy. I actually drank a beer with him afterwards, after I got him in. Spoiler, I guess. And So I just wound up resorting to drilling the lock. I figured I'd drill the lock. Usually when you drill a lock, you drill it, pull out the lock again so I can show you. You drill it right there, right at the top, right at the shear line where all the pins are. And when you do that, it kind of creates its own shear line. And you can just turn the lock with a screwdriver or really anything. Screwdriver works best. You can put a little torque in it if things are kind of fucked up in there. And, I usually go for an 1/8 inch drill bit. Second I hit the trigger on my drill, that drill bit broke off inside. And at that point I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do? So I went to a bigger drill bit, of course, bigger, better. And I wound up with the standard diameter of a plug is a 1/2 inch. I wound up going with a 1/2 inch drill bit. By the end of it, I broke like 3 fucking drill bits in that thing, and I just really couldn't get it out. And so I hogged out the core and didn't make any progress. Almost like when you're drilling and the drill gets bound, because you're drilling through brass and it has holes and different materials, and in this case broken drill bits, it will bind and it will kick on you and try to break your arm. So it can my drill has like kickback control and a brake on it. So it didn't quite do that, but I swear I thought I was going to break that drill bit or chip the tip or something along those lines. And I eventually got to the back and just really couldn't find anything that I could leverage off of. So as a last resort, the whole knob the finish wasn't even recognizable. It was supposed to be polished brass, but it was so aged and corroded. It was green and black, and I really couldn't even properly identify what finish it was. So I took my angle grinder. I wish I had a knob here to show you guys. I do have a lever. So I took my angle grinder and pretend this is a knob, cut it right there. And that way I can just kind of reach with the screwdriver and activate the locking mechanism. So it was, when you pick a lock, it's non-destructive. There's no sign of entry, there's no destruction. Their keys are usually inside, so they can just continue on using the lock. When you drill a lock, you only have to replace the cylinder. So we'll bring out the Schlage again. If I were to drill it right here, as you can see, there's a screw in the back. And you can take the cylinder out, replace the cylinder, and it's no big deal. You can save the big portion and the thumb turn and the bolt and everything that's involved, the whole locking mechanism. When you're a brute like me and you fucking cut the whole knob off with an nail grinder, you gotta replace the whole damn thing. And the only justification I could find for it was, it's time to replace. I mean, the whole lock was worn out, the whole thing was corroded, and the finish was all messed up. And he was actually recommended by his landlord to replace that whole knob at some point, just because it was ugly and they didn't want it on there anymore. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. He got a new lock, and I keyed it the same as his deadbolt, and it was a finish that he liked, and everything worked. He was happy with it. I wasn't happy. That was one of the first locks I ever had to drill out on the field, or in this case, cut off from the field. So it was pretty messed up. It was really late, and I was very tired. So we were, just wound up chit-chatting, and that's what's cool about it, is you get to, sometimes you do get to kind of have more of a interaction with people and figure out what they do for a living. I always like to find out what people do for a living, because it gives me some insight on, and their journey towards that career, because it gives me insight on on the steps that they took and the decisions that they made. And maybe it's a field that I'm interested in, and I can always figure out what sort of steps they took. And usually it's an old timer, and they're back in the 80s when shit didn't need a background check, 3 college degrees and all that kind of shit. So it's not always the same, but it's cool to see and meet people in that respect. And you only meet them for a night. Of course, I had to I don't speak like this with customers, so of course I had to keep the veneer of customer service. They won't say the guy's name, but he was a very nice guy. He's really cool about the situation, and I was a little embarrassed about it. Don't ever want to have to do that again. So I figure I should probably start practicing again. Which leads me to this. Let me set you up. I'm on my phone, and it's like really hard to set all this up. The audio probably sucks as well. This is a wafer lock. So this goes on to like almost like a pedestal of sorts. It's like a steel cabinet on wheels for people to give speeches. This actually came from a school, so they roll it out into the gymnasium and they put the microphone on there and shit, and they give speeches with it. They didn't have the key to this, and they had several others, and they all wanted them keyed alike so that the maintenance guy can carry one key to all of these and get them open whenever he wanted. So this one wound up in my hands, and I practice with it. And usually on wafer locks, I'll use a wafer jiggler, and about 90% of the time that'll get me in no time at all. Actually, before I start picking, let me show you some of my picks. So it's not much. I usually run Sparrow stuff, so you break some every once in a while. But you gotta realize I do carry my picks everywhere that I go out in the field. It has to be kind of portable, has to fit in one case. Some of them I modify and bend or things of that nature. So yeah, got a lot of hooks. I really like single pin picking more than anything, but I always kind of start with the rakes. If I can rake that open and like you're sticking a damn key in the thing, and you always want to kind of go for that speed and efficiency. Anytime you go for an entry, you always go for the bypass first, because the quicker you get in, charge the same amount, it's more money an hour you're making. So always be quick. But in this case, this is just a wafer lock. I'm gonna rake it with this triple. It's gonna sort of act as a wafer jiggler. And see, just like that, it's open. So this is probably one of the easier locks that I have, and that's the actuator. So when you close it, this is actually, I'll let it relock, but this is actually spring actuated. And this goes on the door, so you close the door and it clips, and it's ramped on one side. So those ones are always fun. It makes you feel like a pro, just because of how quickly he can get in. Here's that Defiant, I believe it is, right? Yeah, this is a Defiant. This is the one I showed you where, with quick sets, you always got that nice platform to pick off of. Defiants are notorious for having security pin spools. In this case, I'm going to try it first with the bottom of the keyway tension. And I really like using this hook. It's more like a half diamond with a little tiny kink on it. This gives me a little extra reach, but with high security and things of that nature, you gotta really go for that deep hook. I got the first one binding. See if you can't hear that click. There's a little click. Let's see what else we got. Nothing. Oh, second pen a little bit. There we go. That's first pin. I believe this is fourth. So that just dropped me over into a false set. So what that means is that the core is cocked over just slightly. It looks a little crooked in the lock. So when it's crooked in the lock, that means it's got some sort of security pin, usually a spool, but it could also be a T-pin. I really like spools. Almost in a sense, it's easier than having like a nice high tolerance lock like a Sargent with just all standard pins, because you don't really get much feedback with spools. Once you get that thing in a false set, the thing will raise its hand. It'll give you a counter rotation where the whole core wants to turn backwards on you. And that's basically that particular pin going, hey, I'm ready to be picked. In this case, it's not really like I'm bottom of the keyway. I'm not getting much feedback. I'm going to switch over the top. You might even get a better view too. Sometimes it still won't give counter rotation. As you saw, this lock is really fucked up and old. It's like really corroded and just kind of dirty. So what I like to do is I'll rotate the pick, like turn it, and sort of force that counter rotation and get a click. Sometimes you gotta do with the tension wrench, but that sacrifices almost all your pins. If you can do it with the, there we go, it's an open. See, it's all crooked. Yeah, if you can do it with the pick, it's always ideal. Because with the pick, you don't have to sacrifice the tension that you're putting on it. I might even do like a tutorial and gut a lock and show you how everything works. There's a million of those already out there, but maybe I'll put one out of my own. I find them fascinating. There's like this school, there's like two different schools of thought that I've kind of seen out there. They go, picking is an art and picking is a science. I've always been a proponent of picking as a science. Reason being is that it is a mechanical contrivance. It is made with engineering and material science. And if you can stick a key in it, it can be manipulated. With an art, you're guessing. And I feel like that is going to severely limit the things that you can pick, and it's going to even limit your imagination. And your approach to locks. You know, if you think it's an art, then you're just sort of picking around and you don't really know what's going on, and you never really bother to really think about it. And maybe that's not true, because there are plenty of intelligent artists out there. But if you're thinking of it more as a science, then you're kind of taking the lock apart. Anytime I see a new lock, I want to get my hands on it in some way and try to take it apart and figure out how it works, because it'll open it up to vulnerabilities and exactly how you can attack a particular lock. Of course, today we're just picking fucking quick sets, and those are pretty common. You don't really have to search far, but like, well, one I just did recently was safety deposit boxes. Man, I want to get my hand on one of those locks. It's like a lever lock. I think I can take some like bicycle spokes, stainless steel ones, and make some picks out of it and figure out exactly. It's a totally different mechanism than what we're looking at here. And they're dual custody. So that means you need two different keys. 99% of the time when you're doing safe deposit boxes, the guard key or like the bank's key is already present, and you can get access to it. You just got to do the tenant key in a sense. But sometimes you gotta do both. So that's another one. I think I'll leave it up there for now. Next time I'll fucking find my tweezers in my penny tray and get a lock for you guys and show you exactly how everything works, and cut some keys and show you share lines and even show you security pins and the differences and what they do. I don't know. But tonight I'm just sort of picking around and fucking with stuff. I'm a little bored. Anyways, you guys have a good night. I'll see you when I see you.